On this episode of Game Shack, I recap the weekend that was for AtGames Fan Appreciation Day, and I talk about the disaster that was last week for Arcade1up. All that and some more virtual pinball news coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Game Shack. I'm your host JDV here for Evil Genius Entertainment. Thanks to everybody who's been checking out the channel and commenting. I really appreciate comments. It helps kind of me to figure out where to go next. Well, let's jump right in and talk a little bit about AtGames and the weekend they just had. So of course yesterday was a big Valentine's Day sale where a lot of stuff was half off. You could get new products like the Arcade Legendary Mini Unit, a kind of smaller Tetris branded RetroCade type thing, a new wireless controller, and most importantly to me, you could pre-order Wave 4 of their pinball game, which I did. I also ordered some other things like the controller and a puck and everything like that, but I was very interested in looking at their pinball game, and this is the first time I've been able to get in on that pre-order. Apparently, not all Wave 1, 2, and 3 have been delivered yet, but AtGames is saying that will be fixed by March. And AtGames I think, had a very good weekend because they were very upfront. They had a lot of cool sales. They had a lot of cool interactivity with their fans, being able to talk to each other and game with each other and interact with the company itself. They went on to multiple shows and kind of, let themselves take a beating from the fans if the fans wanted to. They have been very open about things. Their server went down, not for buying stuff. I think you could buy stuff all through the day. I was worried that their servers were going to crash for sales. They never did. They never quite got that overloaded. But the servers that had some pre-existing game owners' ID numbers did crash. And so those guys could not participate in the many contests that they ran over the weekend, and that of course left a bad taste in some people's mouths. But to their credit, AtGames is going to have a new contest for the people that kind of got boned over on that, in which I think you can win an arcade mini legendary arcade game, their new Tetris game. So they're trying to make it right, and they've been very upfront about they released the results of their surveys. They're asking, how much price are you willing to pay for this? Are you interested in that? And the answers to some of those surveys are actually very interesting. Check out P-Dub's review of some of that stuff. But overall, besides the server thing happening, I think they sold a lot of pinball. I guess if you count all the sales they made from the very first pinball game up until yesterday, they sold 60% of that again on just Sunday. So a huge amount of these pinball games were ordered. You cannot order it now if you missed out. It's not available on their website as I record this. You can still get in your order for the Legendary Mini game, but it's now up to $400, which is a decrease from their previously announced, I think, $475 MSRP. So it's a reduction in price there, but it's still not for the $300. So if for some reason you wanted to get in on this yesterday, but for whatever reason you couldn't, you didn't have cash in your account or something, some of this stuff is still available on their website, but you're probably going to be paying a little bit more for it. But hey, kudos to AtGames, who I think they really did it right both this week leading up to it. And it's really cool that they've coming out with some new products, and that pinball game is available again, and they all seem like pretty righteous guys. So hey, congratulations guys on a really good week and weekend. Contrast that with Arcade1up that had a pretty disastrous week as they announced that yes, you're not going to be getting your Star Wars game if you haven't already gotten it. You won't be getting your pinball games until the very earliest, probably March 12th, maybe a little bit after that. Besides the delay, they also had previously announced that they were going to have a really big announcement, and that big announcement turned out to be not the announcement of The Simpsons or NFL Blitz or some other collaboration with something like SNK or Nintendo, but rather they're taking some names for people who maybe want to be beta testers. Now, they're not going to give you the machine. You buy the machine and then you're a beta tester for free. And that was the big news from Arcade1up here. That combined with the total lack of communication really from them and really poor communication from GameStop, and some kind of hubris, let's be honest. I think they took their fans a little for granted at the very least this last week. And you had some very, very angry fans out there. And it was not helped at all by the fact that the only two production reviews now I've seen of the Star Wars game are from Cool Toy and Justin over at Console Kits, two very prominent, game YouTubers. So conspiracy theories have been flying about that. Now, I know both those guys ordered those games early, and so I know maybe it's legit. But I also know people have commented on my videos and said, wait a minute, I ordered on November 2nd or, real early, and I don't have mine. So you have people who ordered on the same day as those guys and didn't get anything, yet those guys got them. I don't blame those guys for putting up reviews, but they unintentionally, I think, hurt Arcade1up because the optics were super bad. And so there was a lot of anger out there, including on my own part. So I thought, well, I'll give you 5 reasons right now. 5. 5 reasons why you should cancel your order for Star Wars or Marvel or Attack from Mars Pinball. 1. Well, the delay. That's the biggest reason, right? Or at least one of the big reasons is, hey, if you really wanted to have that pinball game at the very least by February 12th or 8th or whenever they said, yeah, you're not getting it. You're not getting that game until March. And who knows what with the weather and everything else, it could very well be that you're not going to get it to after March. It looks like, and I could be wrong, it looks like the vast majority of people who put in their pre-orders did not get them. And I'm not exactly sure why that is and why they missed that window by more than a month, almost a month and a week, almost 5 weeks if they hit their March 12th deadline. Well, geez, how could you be so wrong in your predictions of that? I mean, I know the weather's bad in Chinese New Year, but that's a pretty big factor to miss by. So just, I talked about it in one of my other videos. Maybe you're going to be out of town on that time. Maybe you really wanted it special for a birthday present or a Christmas present or whatever. There's lots of reasons why people who spend this kind of money, and it's a very expensive unit, want their stuff when they're told they can get it. So that's a big reason. 2. 4th reason is the lack of communication. The lack of communication from Arcade1up, the lack of transparency has been bad, particularly when you combine it with the fact that they've done 2-hour-plus long shows on YouTube channels and did not come up with a legitimate anything that I know of in any of those shows. No apologies to the fans. No, hey, this truck flipped over, nothing like that. No, hey, you know what? For everybody who had a pre-order in that we've now missed another deadline, we're going to give you $50 off your next order or something. Nothing like that. No indication at all from Arcade1up at all, and only one very short email from GameStop. It's been really badly handled. That combined with, people being let down about a Simpsons or NFL Blitz announcement amongst some other things, including those other guys getting their test units before everybody else. Well, not test units, production units. The lack of communication has been bad. 3. My 3rd reason why you ought to do it is because, hey, you could have ordered that AtGame pinball. And I'm going to be really interested to see if anybody who had a pre-order in for Star Wars or Marvel canceled that and then put in a pre-order for the AtGames, knowing that they're not going to be getting that game until mid-May. I have certainly given a lot of thought. Right now I have a pre-order in for both, and we'll see. I mean, let's put it this way. If the Star Wars game is delayed again, say to May 15th, that's a no-brainer. I'm going to go with AtGames because it's a better machine. And because, a 3rd and 4th delay is just crazy. The other thing is, real quick, you can still get that well-played pinball game over at GameStop for $500. Now, in and of itself, maybe it's not that great. It has no haptic feedback. The plunger is essentially just a button. It does have online capacity, but there's nothing there for it to be online with. There's just nothing there. It has those Zachariah tables that you can get. Comes with, I think, 23 of them though, so you do get a goodly amount of tables on it, but it's $500 and doesn't have any back video glass. On the other hand, the tilt of the screen is what I think they all should be. If you're going to sit down and play these games the way I plan on doing it, you want the game to be tilted. You don't want it to be flat or down. And so I think Well Played actually has a very well-designed machine, particularly if you want a mod, because that backboard is just screaming to be taken out and put a monitor in, put something bigger in. It's actually a decent size, mid-size unit. It's almost exactly the size as Arcade1up's, and that's a good thing. It's bigger than the Toy Shock version. It's bigger than the kit you can get from Game Room Solutions. And it's only a little bit smaller than the AtGames, which has a 32-inch screen in it. So there are some other options out there, at least there were some other options as of Sunday, and you can still get this, you can get a kit from Game Rooms or this game, the Well Played game from GameStop. Fourth reason is to stick it to them. There's a lot of anger out there. I saw, hashtag cancel Arcade1up. I saw a lot of vitriol out there. I don't quite have those emotions. I'm disappointed in it, and I'm also disappointed in them for not being friendlier to what is ultimately a very niche market. There's only so many of us in this market, and there's a little bit of hubris maybe the overall, I don't know, but there is some legitimate anger. And if you are really angry at a company for doing something, then there's really only one thing you can do, and that is to cancel that service. Same thing here with Arcade1up. If you're very upset with what they're doing, yeah, they're going to be able to sell these units, and maybe they almost would go, whew, there's not so many. But then again, I think if enough people canceled it out of anger, it would certainly send a sign, and maybe you'd see a shakeup of the leadership of that company. I doubt that, but there is some real anger out there, and to me, this is a real-world way that you can affect some change, maybe, and that's to just simply cancel your order. 5. And my number one reason might surprise you, but it's the size and quality of the playfield. I've been playing a lot more virtual pinball. I really hadn't played any when I first ordered the Star Wars game, but I've managed to build a prototype, my own unit, and frankly, 24 inches is very small. In fact, if you watch the console kit video, Justin's kid is playing the game, and one of the first things she says, out of Babe's mouth, is too small. Or what? Well, it's fun, but it'd be a lot more fun if it were a bigger screen. And I thought that was damning with faint praise. 24 inches is a very small screen size for a unit that costs $550 or $600. It's nice that it has solenoids in it and that haptic feedback, which ain't great. That's another thing that hasn't been fixed. I'm going to get to that in a second. But the screen size is too small. It's simply put, it's one thing if you're paying $400 for a 24-inch screen in the Toy Shock Haunted House. It's another thing if you're paying $600 for the same size screen. And yes, I understand there's more bells and whistles in the Star Wars game, but ultimately, it's about the game. It's about what you're looking at. And speaking of that, it's very weird to me that they weren't able to fix the jagged edges on the pinball flippers. What's the one part of the pinball game that you look at constantly? It's the flippers, because that's what the ball hits. How else are you going to hit the ball? And that is the one part of this game that you can really see the letdown of either the CPU or the 720 resolution that it's putting on. I know it's a 1080 screen, but it's only going out at 720, and those flippers are very clearly jaggedy. They almost look like they're 8-bit, something that you'd see on a Sega Genesis or something. It's kind of bizarre. The being able to shake the table and have the ball move, there's clearly a delay, like a significant delay, enough of a delay that it would affect your ability to play the game. It does look like there's no lag on the flippers and that the ball's moving good at 60 frames per second. So that's all the good. But a very small display is very disappointing. Those jags not being worked out. The back DMD board is, it's shaped like this, but you're only getting this much screen. And Retro Ralph actually addressed that, and he said, well, when I played it at CES, you could adjust the aspect ratio to fill the whole screen, stretch it out. But now you can't do that. I want to see video on the whole screen. I don't want to see that letter barred screen. I want the whole screen to be filled, even if it is only a 7-inch screen. I want to see that. And why wouldn't they give us the option on that? That's just straight up bizarre. Now, maybe it can be fixed in firmware, but gee golly, if you're missing your delivery date by 9 months, and you debuted this at CES now over a year ago, that's a dead simple thing to have fixed. So they're, as expensive as this is, and as slick as Arcade1up games usually are, there are some technical things about this game that give me great concern. The way the flippers look, the haptic, like when you hear those little solenoids, it's nice that they're there, but they're clearly very weak. It's better than nothing, but I don't think it's so good as it justifies a huge amount of increase. And you're talking about, a third more than the Toy Shock version. But there's one big reason why, if you do still have a pre-order in for Star Wars, Marvel, or Attack from Mars, why you shouldn't cancel. And that's because today, as I record this, it's come to my attention that they're saying now on GameStop's website, once Star Wars becomes available to pre-order again, they will not be shipping, or they're not expecting delivery dates until 12/31/21, which means the next batch of Star Wars pinball games aren't coming out until 2022. And that is a long time to wait for a product that does have some problems technically, like that very small screen. Now maybe there'll be a Wave 2 and they'll have a bigger screen, but I don't think that's going to be the case. Well, anyway, so hopefully all that made sense. I think AtGames had a really good week, and I think Arcade1up had a really bad week, but they're smart people over there. They've done a lot of good. I think they will recover from this. I think that they will maybe be much more modest now, both in terms of what they say on YouTube and other places. And maybe this whole thing will teach them to respect the fans and the people who buy their product just a wee bit more. All right, if you like this episode, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help. Everybody who's commented, thank you so much. That really does matter to me. It helps me figure out where I should go with the show. We are going to hopefully be debuting a new video game show, and that's going to be War Pig on Warcraft. He's got a whole bunch of show ideas. He loves that game, and he kind of showed me I had never played it before, so he kind of took me through a little run through. It's a fascinating type of game, so look out for that. Our movie side of the stuff, look out for episode 4 of Reanimated. That should be out in another month. All right, love each other, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the Game Shack. Mwah! It's too cold for anything funny. I gotta be real. It is cold.
Be sure to visit EvilGeniusEntertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.